All right, for section 8.3, we are now going to be factoring trinomials when our a value is not equal to 1. So remember our standard form of a quadratic trinomial, we have ax squared plus bx plus c. And now we're going to be interested at trinomials when a doesn't equal 1. So these are going to be a little trickier, but I don't think it'll be too bad. So we're still going to look at our product sum puzzles because they're very helpful, but they're going to look different. So now when we have them, our bottom part is still going to be the sum, which is represented by the b value. So you remember from last section, the two factors we chose had to add up to our b value. And so remember our b value is the second number that we'll see in our trinomial. But our top number, the product, isn't going to just be the c value this time. Now that we actually have an a value, our product is actually going to be the product of a and c as well. So instead of just having our two factors multiplied together to get our c value, we have to first take the a and c values of our trinomial, multiply those two numbers together, and that is the number that has to be the product of our two factors. So I know that might sound confusing. I think once we do a couple examples, you'll see kind of what I mean. So with that, let's go ahead and just dive into the first example to see what this looks like. So I have 5b squared plus 2b minus 16. So let's go ahead and just kind of do some labeling. My a value is 5 because it's in front of my b squared. My b value is 2 because it's in front of just the b variable. And my c value is negative 16. So we have our values sorted. Now let's actually look at the product sum. So like I said, our sum is still going to just be our b value. So in this case, it is just going to be 2. So I'm going to do some highlighting just to kind of emphasize this 2 we are only getting from our b. Okay. Now for our product, we need to take the a value, which is 5, and multiply it by our c value, which is negative 16. So off to the side, you can plug this in your calculator. We need to figure out what is 5 times negative 16. Plug that into your calculator. You should find that it is negative 80. So this is a very big number, but don't be too worried. But I just want to emphasize, we are getting this number for our product from multiplying the a and c values. So now that there is an a value, we have to multiply it with our c. And actually, this is what we've been doing in the last section, except a was always 1. So we didn't really have to do the product because anytime we multiplied our a and c value, it would just be the c value because anything times 1 equals itself. So we're honestly still doing the same thing, but now we actually have to multiply them because we have a value for a. Okay, so now that we have those, we can figure out what our two factors are. So we need two numbers that multiply to get negative 80, but they add together to give me 2. So since my product is negative, that should immediately tell you one of our factors is negative. If we do some guess and check, we'll figure out that 8 and 10 are two factors of 80. And if we add those together, specifically if we have negative 8 and positive 10, you can add those together and you will get positive 2. So these are our two factors. These multiply to get negative 80, and they add to give us positive 2. Now, this is where we have to add in a new step. So we actually need to rewrite this trinomial. Basically, we are going to split this term up based on our two factors. So instead of writing 2b, we are instead going to write negative 8b plus 10b. So let me show you what I mean. Over here, I will rewrite. So we have 5b squared minus 8b plus 10b minus 16. Now, let's make note of a couple things. Notice this is exactly the same equation as this, in terms of value because instead, let's see, I'm running out of highlighter colors. Instead of 2b, we have negative 8b plus 10b. But if I combine these two, so negative 8b plus 10b, that equals 2b. So it's the same value, but we have split it up because this is going to make it simpler to factor. Looking at this, it is much harder to tell what our factors are going to be, but when we have it set up like this, we can actually use grouping. So, because we're going to use grouping, I'm going to delete this highlight really quick that I just made. Let me see if I can. There we go. So, I'm going to group this. So I'm going to, like we did last time, I have my blue group and my green group. So for my blue group, what can I factor out of this? Between 5 and 8, nothing factors, but I have at least a b variable in both of them. So I can factor out b, and I'll be left with 5b minus 8. Then in my second grouping, I can factor out what looks like a 2. So it's positive 2. And if I do that, I am left with 5b minus 8. And this is great because if we notice, this value is the same as this value in my parentheses, which is what we need. So to write my final answer, I will have 5b minus 8 times b plus 2, and I get the b plus 2 from the two things that I factored out of my groups. So this would be my final answer, 5b minus 8 and b plus 2. Again, if you're ever doubting your answer, you can always check it by distributing these to see if you get the original trinomial. So if we did distribute the 5b and the negative 8, we would see that we'd get the exact same trinomial. So I know it's a longer process, but we're using tools, using things that we have used before. So we're using the skills we know, just in a different way. The only way you're going to get good at this is if you just practice it. So let's go ahead and look at example B. Okay, so now we have 3n squared minus 11n minus 20. So again, if it's helpful for you, I would encourage you, go ahead and just label your a, b, and c values. So my a value is 3, b is negative 11, and c is negative 20. So with that, our product sum, the bottom one is our b value, which is negative 11, and the product in the top, we have to make it a times c. So in this case, it will be 3 times negative 20, which is negative 60. So we need two numbers that will add together to give us negative 11, and they'll multiply to get us negative 60. Notice our product is negative, so if that is the case, our factors, one of them has to be negative, because a negative times a positive gets us a negative. If we do some guess and check, we can maybe figure it out, or if you want, you can list out the factors. So 1 times 60, 2 times 30, 3 times 20. Let's see, 4 times 15, 5 times, 12, and 6 times 10. Lots of factors. So if it's helpful, you can list out all the factors and then just kind of do some guess and check. If you look, the two numbers that will add to negative 11 are going to be 15 and 4. And you want the 15 to be negative because the sum is negative. So if the sum is negative, the larger of the two factors has to be the negative number. So negative 15 plus 4, negative 11. Negative 15 times 4, negative 60. So we now have our factors. And next, we are going to rewrite our trinomial. So we will have 3n squared minus 15n plus 4n minus 20. So again, we are getting this negative 15n plus 4n from our factors here. And we know that it equals this because we've already added negative 15 and 4 to get negative 11. So we can see replacing negative 11 with negative 15n plus 4n is the same thing, but we're making it possible to use grouping. So with that, let's go ahead and group these. I'll get rid of my highlights. Okay, so if I want to group these, let's do a blue group and let's do a green group. Our blue group, I can factor out 3n, and I'll be left with n minus 5. And in our green group, I can factor out a 4, and I'm left with also n minus 5. And now that we have those factored out, we can use our grouping method and see that we have n minus 5 times 3n plus 4, since that is what is remaining of, or those are the factors that we factored out. So n minus 5 times 3n plus 4. All right, let's look at another one. Let's look at problem C. So first, let's list out our values. So A equals 2, B is 19, and C is negative 10. So if we want to do our product sum, I'm going to do it up here. Our two factors need to add together to give us 19. That's our B value. And they need to multiply together to give us A times C. So 2 times negative 10, use your calculator if you need to, that's negative 20. So we need two numbers that add to 19 and multiply to negative 20. If our product is negative, then we know that one of our factors also needs to be negative. Doing some guess and check, we'll figure out that our numbers are actually 1 and 20. So if I add negative 1 and positive 20, that gets me 19. But if I multiply them, I get negative 20. So now that we have that, we can rewrite our equation as 2x squared. And then I need to use my two factors. So we will have minus 1x plus 20x. And then that takes care of the 19x, and then we just have minus 10. Okay, so from here we can do some grouping. So I'm going to use some colors. For my first set, I can factor out an x, and then I'll have 2x minus 1, because if I just take 1x divided by x, all I'm left with is 1. And then from the green group, I can factor out, looks like a 10. So then I'll be left with 2x minus 1. Once again, what's inside of the parenthesis matches up. So we know we did it right. We have our answer of 2x minus 1 times x plus 10. All right, go ahead and try problem D. I'll go ahead and help you with the values. So your A value will be 7. Your B value will be negative 30, and your C value will be 8. So use those and see if you can figure out problem D. All right, so I got my answer to be 7m minus 2 times m minus 4. If you got something different, go ahead and check your work and see where you made a mistake. All right, let's look at problem number E. So list out my values. I have A equals 7. I don't have a number in front of V, so my B value is just 1, because we can assume that there is just a 1 there. And then for C, we have negative 2. So nice small numbers. This will be nice. If we do our product sum, our B value is 1, and then our product is A times C, so 7 times negative 2, which is negative 14. So we need two factors that multiply to get negative 14, and that add together to give us 1. And if you look at this one for a little bit, you'll maybe notice that you don't see any factors that are really going to work. And so like last section, this is one that we would call unfactorable. There isn't any combination of factors that we can use to factor this one. Again, there is a way we can solve this equation for our variables. We will learn that in a future section. But for now, this problem, we would just write unfactorable. Okay, for problem F, let's get our values. So A equals 10, B is negative 43, and C is 12. So doing our product sum, our B value, the sum is negative 43. The product is A times C, which would be 120. So we got some big numbers. Notice our product is positive, but our sum is negative. So if that is ever the case, both of our factors are going to be negative numbers. So now we need two factors from 120 that add to 43 and multiply to 120. So for this one, I really think we should just list out some factors. So we have 1 times 120. I don't think that one's going to work. 2 times 60. I don't think that one's going to work. Let's keep going. 3 times 40. I think that might work. If we add -3 and -40, I think that gets us -43. So I think we finally found our numbers. So -3 and -40. So now we can rewrite our equation, or our expression. So 10x squared, and then using our factors, minus 3x, minus 40x, and then plus 12. So -3x and -40x give us the -43, but now we can group it. So I have a blue group and I have a green group. So the blue group I can factor out an x, and I'll have 10x minus 3. In my green group, I want my leading term to be positive, so I can factor out a negative, let's see, 4. And then I have 10x minus 3 again. So looks like we're good. We have our common parenthesis of 10x minus 3, and then the rest of the stuff goes in our other parenthesis, so x minus 4. All right, I know these are a little tricky, but again, practice is what's going to make this easier. So I want you guys to do problem G and problem H on your own. When you're done, unpause the video and check my work to see what you got.